Good evening. Have with us today. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Summer Jess Wisdom. I'm going to give you a word on today. Um, Now we talk about Elijah. Now you remember Elijah, he went up in heaven. God had scooped him up, and he dropped down his spirit to Elijah. So now he doing the work that Elijah was doing. He picked up what Elijah was doing. So he had the spirit, he had the power and everything else. So you're gonna come from 2 Kings 4:1-7. Now this title is the widow Oliver. Now that's all she had. That's all she had. And Elijah gonna use the tools that she had. Elijah gonna prepare the tools that she had and go out to get the rest of the tools to add up with that. But it's gonna be God power that gonna make things happen. So the wife of a man from the company of the prophet cried out. And remember I talked about that yesterday. The company of the prophet is a school. It's a spiritual school that they go to. And remember it was like 50 of them had stood on a distance, to watch Elijah, because they all know he was about to be scrolled on up. So they stood around watching. And that was the ones that came out the class, the school. Just serving her husband. Her husband was one of them in that spiritual school. Now he is dead. And that he reversed the Lord, but now his creditor is coming to take two of her boys, as slaves. See, back then, when you owe debt, you either turn yourself in as a slave, and if you got children, they take the children for the price of the debt. Because see, her husband died, and I guess she was paying all the bills, but then he loved that bill not paid, and it fell on her. So back then, the poor people was allowed, to pay their debt, by selling, themselves or their children as slaves. Now God all the rich people encouraged us not to take advantage of these low income people, during their time of need. But this woman creditor was not acting in the spiritual of God law. And see, most of the creditor was under God, and he told them not to be so hard on the low income people that try to pay their bills. So Elijah replied to her, how can I help? Because she let him know, my husband is dead. My husband's dead. The creditor keep coming over here, want to collect money, what her husband owed. And all she have is herself and her two boys. And back then that's what they had to do. So she didn't want to turn hard in her son's in, for the prophet. So she wanted to see what else that she can do, to pay these creditors. So the creditor also they won't be taking her children. So Elijah replied to her, how can I help? How can I help you? So tell me, what do you have in your house? Now he said, how can I help you? Then he said, what do you have in your house? Because see, what she have in her house, what she can use to get herself out of debt. Besides her and her two sons. Because see, she don't have no solution. When he come back, he coming back to take her and her two boys. So your servant has nothing. Now he asked her, what you have in your house? She said, I have nothing. She said, I have nothing. That all. She said, all she have is except a small jar of olive oil. That's all she have in her house. Now we see that Elijah is working as Elijah did, with this widow. Husband is dead. Elijah deal with situation like this here. We see Elijah's spirit is working very well in him. He working just like Elijah was. So left hard to pay her bill. Now she has nothing, but her two boys and a small jar of olive oil. Now watch how God do a miracle with just a small jar of olive oil. And Elijah, he gonna do the preparation for the miracle. So for all ladies, this for all ladies. Now this widow here, her husband died. He must be paying all the bills. So now he gone. She don't know how she gonna pay bills. So that means she wasn't helping providing in the house. So this is for all ladies. When you are married or you living with someone, you know, and someone, and they're paying all the bills, and you never know when they're gonna depart for you. So you have to be mindful that you have to have a job also. You never know when your spouse is gonna depart. This woman husband had died. She didn't know how she gonna pay her bills, meaning she wasn't providing while the husband was alive. So this for all women. Just because you married, just because you have a boyfriend living with someone, still provide. Because you never know when your spouse gonna depart, and you'll be able to pick up the slack, and you won't be in this predicament like this widow is. You won't be in this predicament. The bills will still flow on. So with someone, make sure you are working, so you won't be in this kind of predicament, not knowing how you will pay your bills after your husband is dead. So if a man don't want you to pay, now this is another story. If you have a husband and a boyfriend, because they got some men don't want you to work. They got some pastors, they don't want their wife to work. So if you got a husband that don't want you to work, trust him, with their allowance you get, make sure you save. Make sure you put something on the side for holidays or whatever. You got to realize your spouse is not forever. So you always have to think about hard time, deportation time. You have to think about all that. So if he don't want you to work, still put some money on the side. So all this, this woman have, all this woman have is a small jar of olive oil. Elijah said, go around, ask your neighbor for empty jars. So Elijah coming up with a solution for this woman here. Now this woman said she don't have nothing in her house. But Elijah said, what you have in your house? So Elijah, no, you got to have something in your house. She said, well, I have my two boys. She wants to come back and get them. She said, but the only thing I have is a small jar of olive oil. So Elijah said, that's fine. All I need you to do is go around your neighbors, ask them for an empty jar. See, Elijah preparing for this miracle. She have a little small jar of olive oil. Now he said, go around to your neighbors, ask everyone, do they have empty jars? Go collect empty jars. Now remember, he said, don't get a fruit. Don't get it, because see, she have a small thing of air. And she probably just get like 2 or 3 and think that was enough. No, Elijah said, get many empty jars that you can. Don't worry about getting enough fruit because you got a little small olive oil. Get many jars as possible. And watch the miracles that can happen. So remember, she have a small jar of oil. She is gone all around the neighbor's house to get empty jars. Now Elijah is about to perceive a miracle with the tools that she have. With the tools that she have to pay her bills. Now she can keep her own 2 boys. Now see Elijah, she telling him, the man said he gonna come back. And when the man said he coming back to get your 2 boys. So Elijah trying to prevent for the man to be taking her kids away. He come up with a solution. He like, whatever you got in your house, let me know. She said, I have nothing, for my 2 boys. And all I have in my cabinet is a small jar of olive oil. He said, that's good. That's good. All I need you to do is go around your neighbors and get empty jars. So she followed instructions. At first, she had no faith. But now she have faith. Believing in the man of God that just arrived to her house. Now you see how God will work? You could be struggling how this and that gonna happen. God sees everything. He sees you struggling. He sees what you need. God always says, see, God bless us through other people. So God's son, Elijah, over there at the nick of time. She had nothing before that man came back. Because she said, the creditor gonna be coming back, and he coming back to take her 2 bars. So God sent Elijah over there before that creditor man, before the man come back to take her bars. God always worked right on time. So then he said, go get the jars, the empty jars. Then he said, go inside. Go inside, shut the door behind you and your son. Now he told her, go in that room, shut the door behind you and your son. He said, pour the oil into all the jars that you collected. Make sure they filled up to the rim. Now, she got a small jar of oil. Now Elijah said, make sure they filled up to the rim. Now I saw the picture. Jesus big old containers. And she had the small jar of oil in her hand, pouring and filling all these containers up. Cause see Elijah prepared all this here. But now it's God's power working. God gonna keep that oil floating, until she run out of containers. And when she run out of containers, then the oil gonna stop floating. Cause see that's power's working right there. Long as she got them containers, God kept that oil float. And he said, fill it up to the rim. She filling them up. And you should see how big the container, about this big. And her little container of oil was this small. But God power was loading, it was floating that oil there. He said, fill it up to the rim. She filling it up to the rim. Each one, she had, that's why you had a son in there. Son, reach me another. Filling it up. Reach me another, son. And the son was helping her out until she got to no more containers. When she said, son, reach me another, that's it. No more container. When there was no more container, then the oil stopped flowing. So God allowed that oil to flow until her containers ran out. And she had big old containers. So that was number power. Number power was working. So she had empty jars she collected. Put the oil in each until it was filled up to the rim. And then remember, she collects so many jars. Now they didn't say how many jars she collected, but it was so many jars she collected, with that small jar of oil that she had. But we about to see how, she filled it all up. Filled it all up. There wasn't nobody but God power floating all that oil in there. Now she had left. She shut the door, she followed the instruction, her and her son, she brought the jars in, and she kept pulling the oil. And when all the jar was filled up, she said to her son, bring me another. She kept saying, son, bring me a container. Bring me a container. So this time she said, son, bring me a container. But he replied, there is not a jar left. There was no more jars left. And then the oil had stopped flowing. See, God kept it floating until she filled up all the containers that she had. They didn't say how many she had, but she had many containers. And God kept it floating until she filled up all the containers. And he said, fill it up to the rim to make sure all of them filled up. And so the woman and her son collected jars from their neighbor, pouring oil into them from their to their one pot. So the oil was probably olive oil and was used for cooking or the lamp. You see, they had fuels. They used to use for the lamp, or they used the oil for cooking. So the oil had stopped pouring only when they ran out of containers. It didn't stop pouring until she ran out of containers. When she ran out of containers, then that oil had stopped flowing. Said God had provided for her. God provided for her with the tools she had. God had needed Elijah to go over there and prepare for this miracle. Okay, that's all you have? It's a small jar of oil? Okay, I need you to go to all your neighbors' houses, and get you some empty containers. See, he needed Elijah to go there and prepare this. Prepare for this miracle here. Get that small jar of oil, go get the empty containers, and then God gonna do the rest. So the numbers was not counted. So God used the little oil that she had, kept it flowing until her containers had ran out. So at first she had lack of faith. You said, I don't have nothing up in here. This man gonna come back, and he coming back to take my two sons. And so the man of God got there. She started having a little faith, because she started following his instruction, what he had told her to do. So the man of God had asked what she have in her house, and she obeyed. She had faith, and that God had worked it out for her. God had provided for her. So she went. She told the man of God, and she said, "Go." So Elijah had told her, now I need you filled them all up. All your jars are filled up to the rim with oil. So he said, I need you to go out and sell all this oil. So she went sold enough. He said, go sell it, and he said, go pay your bills for you and your son to live with what you have now. So you see what I'm saying? So she done filled up her oil. Now Elijah said, now go out and sell it. Sell enough, they're going to pay your bills. So after she sold enough to pay her bills, she had some left over. So he said, with the leftover that you have, that you and your son can live off of that. So out of that little oil that she had, she was able to fill up many containers. And that was her idea, for Elijah to have her to do that. For her, okay, not all them filled up. Now I need you to go out there and sell enough to pay all your bills. Where you and your son can live off of the leftovers that you're gonna have. You see, God not only provide, He provide, but you can have leftovers. You remember Jesus had feed all 5,000 those people with fish and bread. He fed all them people, and they still had leftovers. And that's how God will provide for you. He provide for this woman here. He provide for this woman here. And then this woman still had leftovers. He said Elijah said, for you and your son, y'all going to live off of the leftovers that you have. So that means she's still going to have big old containers left in case to pay any more bills that have to be paid. So this is a widow. She was not provided while her husband was alive. So when he died, she didn't know how she was going to pay bills. Now y'all have to provide when y'all in a house, just because you have a husband. Because you never know. You remember Ruth, Naomi. You remember her. Her husband died, both of her sons died. She didn't know how she was going to provide. Didn't have anything in that land. She had to go to another land. And it took Ruth. It took Ruth to meet a rich man, which was her cousin. To provide for all of them. So you have to provide when you're in a household with a husband, or either with someone that you live with. Because we don't have Elijah to be walking around and just knock on your door all of a sudden. How can I help you? We don't have nobody to come around here. So be saying, how can I help you? My husband did. I don't know how, but how can I help you? We don't have that. So this is a new generation. So we have to have a job. We have to provide. Even with a husband, or even if you have a boyfriend. So when you won't be in this predicament like this, because you ain't gonna have nobody knock on your door and ask, can I help you? You're gonna have to help yourself. Luckily, God has sent a prophet, to this widow, to help her. God knew she was gonna need help. Her husband was gone, and God knew what she had in the house. That's why God sent Elijah over there. He was gonna allow Elijah to use the tools that she had in her house, and God was gonna do the rest to provide for this woman here. He not only provide, she had leftovers to live off of for her and her son. That's a miracle. That was God's power movement. So she went from nothing. Didn't know how, she was going to pay her bills, to after her husband had died, until the man of God had arrived. She didn't know how she was going to provide. All she know, that man said, I will be back. You know how to terminate? I will be back, for both of your sons. But then God had the man of God to knock on that door at the nick of time. He knocked on that door at the nick of time, and she cried out to him, my husband is dead. I don't know how I'm going to pay this bills. That man going to come back, to take my tour because he back then, to pay your bills. You were able to put yourself up as a slave or either your children. You know, that's how they were paying their bills back then when there was, a single person. So he told her to go to a neighbor house, get empty jars, and all she had was a little oil, and the miracle and the power would come from God. He had Elijah to do the preparation for the miracle. But for that oil to keep on floating like that, floating, don't stop until the container had stopped, that was God's power. That was God's power. So long as she had empty jars, God kept the oil floating, until she ran out. Till she ran out of container. Some rich milk container, she filled that one up. Some rich milk container. Mine, we don't have no more. That was the last one. And see, when he said that was the last one, that's when the oil stopped. God was providing for her, making sure that all them containers that she had were going to be filled up. That you're going to have enough to pay your bills. You're going to have enough left over to survive off for you and your son. So now this woman, God put a provision. This woman's story was not only in danger, of losing her income, but also her hope. She had no hope. In order to survive, her two living sons, her only future, to help her in the field, was going to be taken. Meaning of income would have to be sold into slavery. So that was she was scared about. She didn't want to go into slavery. She didn't want her boys to go into slavery. But she didn't have the money to pay her bills. That was going to happen. So the income would have to be sold into slavery to repay her family debt. Now, for her to be in debt like that means the husband was not paying the bills. She had to repay her family debt. She had nothing, but a small jar of oil. And Elijah used the tools that she had in her house, and God used his power to make it happen. God had that oil float, kept on floating until her containers ran out. See, God always let us know, we have tools in our house to use, And so she didn't know about her tools. She didn't know about doing, that's why God had prophets that's small, small to come up with an idea just like that. So he said, okay, that's all you have. You have a small jar of oil. Okay, I need you. Put that small jar on the side right now. Just have in the cabinet right there. What I need you to do is go to all your neighbor house, get some empty containers, and when you come back, you and your son in the put it all in that room, and you start pulling all that air in the container. You should see how big the container is. You start pulling air, and Elijah said, make sure you fill it up. No, do halfway. Make sure you fill it up to the top. When you fill all of them to the top, then you go out and sell it, and you'll be able to pay your bill. And the leftover that you have, you live off of with you and your son. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. That was God's provision. That's what God provided for this widow. God had his prophets to go there and use the tools that she had in her house. She followed instruction and went got the empty container, and she kept pouring that oil in until she had no more containers to pour it in. So that was a miracle. And that's a miracle, because God letting us know we all got some kind of tools in our house that we can use. So that's all the story I have for you on today. Elijah prepared for the miracle, but it was God's provision that provided for this widow. So she had a small jar of oil that kept on floating until she ran out of container. She had enough to pay her bills, and she had enough leftovers to provide for her and her son for days to come. You know, that is called power. So y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all on the next video.